Hi, I'm Ernie,
And I'm Ben.
and this is Budget Nerds.
It was all in your mind.
You are not alone.
No, you are not. Now, before we get started, we have a really exciting announcement, Budget Nerds, and this is something that a lot of you have been asking for.
Yes. So let's announce it. On February 9th, 2022, the Budget Nerds is officially a podcast. Yeah. Woo.
But don't worry, for you YouTube folks that love watching the Budget Nerds here, nothing's going to change with that. We're still going to be releasing shows every other Wednesday. But for you who prefer listening, and maybe you've been requesting that podcast, the Budget Nerds will be available wherever you stream your podcast.
Yeah. And if you would be so kind, please subscribe or rate or review or whatever it is that you do on your podcast app of choice. We would super duper appreciate that. That would help us get in front of more people and get more budget nerds to be part of the community.
Let's dig into today's show. Now, for today, we're going to be talking about reconciliation. We are getting really nerdy here. I feel like amongst the budget nerds, recoconciliation is a really big deal, right? Like, This is something that we really value.
Well, it's like the nerdiest thing that you can do in your budget. I mean, I can't think of a single like software action that you do that's more, in the weeds and nerdy than reconciling your accounts.
And a software action that then results in a dance, right? We have the reconciliation dance. Now, there's not an official dance, but people all have their own.
What's your reconciliation dance, Ernie? You gotta. I mean, this is just for the
I'd
YouTube
prefer
folks.
not to show that.
I'll do it then. I think I do a little like this, and then a little like this. I got to be careful with the microphone. A little like this, and a little like kind of one of these things, a little Charlie Brown kind of, yeah, one of those.
Okay, I'm just gonna play it calm here and just say I do a fist pump.
Sounds good. So, for those who don't know, maybe we should talk about what are we talking about? What is reconciliation? So basically, reconciliation is making sure that your accounts in YNAB and your accounts in real life at the bank match up, that they agree, that they have a handshake, that they are reconciled, and they're friends, right?
I like that.
Yeah.
That visual of a handshake. Hey, we're in agreement here.
Yeah. Because
And specifically,
the idea of reconciliation is like, you had a break in your relationship and then you come together again. That's what we're doing here, right? Like maybe your YNAB accounts don't agree with your bank and they have to talk it out and they have to come to an agreement and they reconcile and they're friends again, right? That's what we're doing here.
or maybe they're just always in agreement and they're just kind of reaffirming that agreement.
Exactly. And specifically, we're talking about making sure that the account balance is in agreement. And by definition, that also means that the transactions are all in agreement as well.
Well, even more specific, the cleared balance.
Right.
The cleared balance in YNAB matches the cleared balance at the bank because it's that cleared balance that represents all of those transactions that are done processing with the bank. So those are the transactions that are final and true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when we talk about some misconceptions later. But that is absolutely key. Is there's a little bit more nuance when it comes to reconciliation. But I want to talk about just more broadly too, like why is it important? Because a lot of people forgo this and they don't really understand. It's kind of a scary accounting term, and it's like kind of, I don't know, it's maybe too nerdy for most people. And so a lot of people don't understand why it's so important to reconcile those accounts. So why don't we talk about that?
For me, it all comes down to trust, right? I want to be able to trust my budget. And specifically, the accounts in YNAB, they feed the budget, right? So all of that category balance information that we're looking at, the assigned values, like, can I actually trust those numbers that I see and make spending decisions on those numbers? Well, the only way that I can ensure that accuracy is if I match my YNAB records with the bank records.
Yeah. I mean, if your accounts are not correct, then your budget is not correct. And we make decisions every day At least we should, based on our budget. And so if our budget isn't accurate, then we might be making inaccurate decisions based on not reality, you know?
I mean, reconciliation, I've been using YNAB for so long, I take it for granted. But looking back on my pre-YNAB days where I was using that Excel spreadsheet, I mean, there was never any reconciliation going on, really. I mean, I was never checking my Excel spreadsheet against the bank. And so those two were always off from each other. Like nothing actually matched reality. And no wonder I could never keep up with the spreadsheet. No wonder it never got me ahead with any of my finances.
Did your old spreadsheet, did it have like a concept of discrete accounts? Because I know what a lot of folks will do is just kind of have a list of transactions, but they might have like 10 accounts out there, but they just have one list of transactions. Did you separate your accounts in your old spreadsheet days?
I didn't even have accounts in that spreadsheet.
Yeah.
I just had the categories where I entered how much was just spent. And I could accidentally enter an amount wrong. You know, I would just put like groceries, $120, and then I would add it to the next entry, $85. So at the end of the month, I'd go back, I'd look at these amounts, and I'd be like, well, I could have entered something wrong or duplicated one of those, and I would have no way of knowing.
Yeah, you'd have no way of knowing because you don't have an account balance that you can kind of match up and say, okay, I at least know that all the money's accounted for, right? And you know, there's a lot of budgeting methods and apps out there that I've noticed that don't have separate discrete accounts. I mean, even the original YNAB spreadsheet, like back in 2005 days of yore, which I wasn't around for that, but I was talking to Erin about this. She's our education lead, and she was there back in the day. And yeah, she said that. She said there was there's no concept of accounts. And so reconciliation as it is now wasn't a thing back then. And so we've come a long way, and I think it's a big deal for sure. Now, how do you do it? Let's talk about like our routines. We've talked about this in other episodes, but I want to hear it again from you, Ernie. How often do you reconcile? What's your process? How do you do it?
Okay. Well, for those that are wondering how often should I reconcile, I would say do it as often as you possibly can. Mm-hmm. And for me, the cadence I've landed on is once or twice a week.
Okay.
Generally, I'll reconcile on Friday morning because that's when my wife and I get paid. And I like going into the weekend knowing that all of those account balances are accurate, and then my budget is also accurate. And then sometimes, because generally on the weekend, that's when we do the most spending, and nothing clears over the weekend, at least with my banks, but a lot of those transactions end up clearing on Monday. So then I'll also do a reconcile generally on Monday morning as well.
Okay. Oh,
and then we just have a few transactions that kind of trickle in through the week, and then I'll do it again on Friday. But my process is I like utilizing my bank's mobile app. So I have that in one hand. Then I bring up that cleared balance. And then I go to the YNAB web app and just hit that reconcile button to begin the process. And then YNAB asks me, is your bank's cleared balance, whatever. And if the answer is yes, I just click yes. And all those cleared transactions from the last time I had reconciled, those are just digitally filed away, and I'm good to go. I do my little reconciliation dance, and I walk into the weekend with a budget that I trust. Oh yeah, the fist pump.
I love that. I like that. It's interesting that you do Friday and Monday. I think that's a good cadence because I feel like a lot of spending happens over the weekend, and sometimes it even takes the bank a little while to clear those transactions over the weekend. So I think it's a good idea to just make sure, maybe you had a wild weekend, I'm sure Ernie, you with your two boys and you just totally party it up on the weekends. And so Monday,
went to the grocery store 5 times.
Yeah. Right. So Monday, the dust is settled and you sit down and you account for it, right? And then over the week, you got stuff trickling in, so you take care of that on Friday. I like that. That works really well. Yeah. And by the way, if you want to know, like, if you're like, hey guys, how do I do this? It's a little, be a little wonky for us to like teach you here. So we'll put a link on the YouTube. We'll put a link to the help doc that'll show you exactly how to do this.
How about you, Ben? Now I know your process. I know what your process is, but why don't you tell the rest?
I'll
of the
tell you
community?
anyway. I'll tell you. I'm gonna. You know what, Ernie? I'm gonna be telling you my process over and over again for years now. Like you're gonna hear this story so many times. So
You want to convert me?
yeah. Well, I've come around to your side a little bit because of reasons. But anyways, I reconcile every morning, every weekday morning. I don't usually do it on the weekends. Sometimes I will if I might happen to be at my computer or something like that. But yeah, I do it every morning before I start work. Actually, didn't do it this morning, so I need to.
Ooh.
I need to get.
Should we pause?
Yeah, maybe I should. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool if I like. You know what? We should do that. I'm gonna reconcile.
Bring it up real time.
I'm not gonna show you guys because I want you to see I'm not gonna log into my bank on a screen share here. But maybe at the end here I'll reconcile while we're here. That'd be fun. Anyways, so yeah, I do it every day, and the reason why I do this is because I had such a bad experience when I first started using YNAB with reconciliation. It was a chore for me. For one thing, I didn't use the reconciliation button. Like I didn't use the reconciliation feature. I don't know.
So you were just looking at balances and saying, "Oh, they match. They're reconciled."
Yeah, exactly. So, and a lot of folks do this. They don't actually use the feature in YNAB. And guys, you got to use it because it's so helpful because it does all the math for you. So if the account balance is off, if the cleared balance is off in YNAB, it'll say, okay, this is the difference. And as you clear transactions, as you add them and clear them, it'll adjust, and then at one point it matches and you're done. You're done. You don't have to do it. Because I had like a calculator out. It was like a mess. I don't know why. Even this was in the YNAB 4 days, and we had the same feature really back then, and I don't know why I didn't use it. But for me, it was such a pain because I only reconciled like once a month or once every 3 weeks or something like that.
I mean, was there something about, boy, I might really screw up something by hitting this button?
I think I just didn't really understand what it did, and so I was a little worried to press it. I don't know. I guess I just never really learned about it. But I did. I guess I intuitively understood that I needed to make sure that everything was accurate, but I didn't know. I probably wouldn't have even called it reconciling at the time. Like I wouldn't even have a term for it. I think I just wasn't taught it. So I didn't use it, but I did pull up. And here's another thing too. I literally downloaded a CSV file from my bank and didn't import that either. Like I could have back in the YNAB 4 days, I could have dragged and dropped it over into YNAB 4, and I didn't do that. Oh my gosh, I made my life so hard. But the real problem though was that I would wait so long. I would only do it every 3 or 4 weeks, and it was such a chore because it's like, okay, there's this Walmart transaction from like 3 weeks ago, and I probably bought like 3 or 4 categories worth of stuff there, and I have no idea, so I'd have to make it up. And then it was just hard to find missing transactions, and I remember my wife and I would pass it back and forth. Like I would do it for a little while and get so frustrated, and I'd be like, you do it, honey, and she'd do it for a while and get frustrated and pass it back to me, and it was just such a mess. So I remember thinking, okay, if I can just do this every day, it'll be a lot easier because there'll only be a few transactions to deal with. And so I set a reminder on my phone. It was like 6 p.m. or something like that. It just said YNAB, and that was my cue to hop on my computer, because you could only do it on the computer back then, and reconcile my accounts. Now, once I started doing that, I think that's really the moment when I became a true and proper budget nerd. I started really loving the process. It was actually a joy, instead of being a chore. So try it more often. It's kind of like the dishes or the laundry. If you let it go for a long time, it piles up and it gets real stinky and gross, and you don't want to do it. And that perpetuates it even more. You even go even longer because you don't want to do it. But if you just do a little bit of work every day, it's so much faster and so much easier. So that's what I do.
I've been reconciling my accounts regularly for years, 2, 3, 4. I don't even know. It's been a long time. I don't think I've had a mistake at any point during that time, right? So things are pretty dialed in. But the reason I continue to reconcile, well, there's probably numerous, but one of them is that idea that if there ever is something wrong, I don't have to go back through all those transactions, right? I just have to go back through the transactions that are after that last reconciliation date. And for me, that's going to be a week's worth of transactions generally. So I can imagine that saving me a ton of time, and I can't imagine the headache of having to go through months or years of transactions to try to figure out why you're 17 cents off.
Oh yeah. And you know, us nerds, like, so there is a feature in when you do reconcile, if you're off by like 17 cents or $1 or $2 or even like $10, you can click a little button that says, all right, I give up. Basically.
Yep.
It's called create an adjustment transaction, and YNAB will create an adjustment transaction. It just creates a transaction that gets you shored up. And it's a fake transaction. It doesn't have any bearing in real life, but basically what you do is you categorize that somewhere, and you eat that money, and then you move on. And I tell people all the time, even though I'm a nerd, it is not worth spending 2 hours trying to find 17 cents. Like, it's okay. Just hit that button. It's okay. Now, if you got like if you're like $100 off, there's a point where it's like, okay, I need to figure out what happened to that money. But if it's less than $1, just let it go. It's okay.
Well, that's funny. In the live Q&As, I tell folks the same thing. I'm like, and generally my line is, hey, walk through these troubleshooting steps for 15, 30 minutes. Don't waste an entire Sunday afternoon tracking down 58 cents. But I know if that was me, I'm wasting an entire Sunday afternoon.
Oh, I don't take my own advice on this, Ernie. Are you crazy?
I know. I'm just that big of a nerd. And I see this all the time, and I know you do too, in the various community hubs around YNAB. Other budget nerds talking about, you know, the amount of cents that they're off, and they're trying to track it down, and it's driving them crazy. So
we had
for those of you, I totally get it.
I'll have to find this meme we posted. I don't remember what it was from, but it was like two characters talking, and it was like the character was about to share this like extreme truth that was like a hard truth for the other person. The person like cried at the end, and it was, you're never gonna find that 17 cents. Oh man, I'll have to find that. Maybe if I find it, I'll put it up for YouTube. But yeah, it was good. Oh man, so that's how I do. And you know, I think the reason why I reconcile more often, I'm not going to tell everybody, hey, you got to reconcile every day, or you're a terrible person, or anything like that. But I'd say at least once a week is really the sweet spot. But I only reconcile one account because I only spend regularly from one account. I got like super simple setup because that's what I love, you know. But you have more credit cards and other accounts going on, right, Ernie?
Yeah, and that was the reason for the once a week. I didn't want to be doing a checking and then what was it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 credit cards. Now we weren't
Right.
spending from all of them, but I feel like I had to at least log in and just kind of see if anything was going on, just to be aware. But now my wife and I have gotten rid of 3 of those cards. So we're down to 3 cards.
All right.
I could start reconciling on a much more regular basis. I
If you
could
want.
become a daily reconciler,
Yeah,
but
do whatever you want to do. It's fine. You know.
I kind of like the 1 to 2
We'll work on
per
you.
week.
We'll work on you. I mean, I think in a year from now, maybe we'll get your daily reconciler too. So
Hey, if I was able to get you to do a fresh start,
right?
you can get me to reconcile daily.
Yeah, maybe you should just try it for a little while, see how you like it. I mean, who knows?
And often for new YNABers, I recommend, and the other teachers recommend, reconciling daily. And the purpose being there, just to get more comfortable with YNAB and to build up the trust in the budget, right? To be able to start every day knowing, yep, these numbers are good and true. I can move forward and make some confident spending decisions. I think that's pretty valuable.
Yeah, because when you first start, I think that is one of the hardest hurdles because, we're telling people, hey, don't look at your account balance anymore to plan your spending, right? And that's really hard for people because that's the number that they've lived by forever. And we're saying, you know what, that checking account balance it's too large. It doesn't break it down enough. Instead, look at your budget. But if you can't really trust those budget numbers, you're going to feel really anxious about using the budget to guide your spending. So reconciling regularly is huge because then you can really know for sure that you can trust it. Let's talk about some misconceptions about reconciliation because there's a lot of them.
Yeah, so I think one of them is that you can't reconcile if you have pending transactions. And I mean, it's nice if you don't because then you can account for everything that's out there, but that's generally not the case. There's always some sort of pending transaction just hanging around. And the reconciliation process in YNAB is all centered around that cleared transaction.
Yeah.
So it really doesn't matter if you have pending transactions. Just keep them as uncleared in YNAB, and you're going to be good to go.
And let's talk about like what's the difference between a cleared and a pending transaction, because I think a lot of folks might not have those terms in their heads. So a cleared transaction means, okay, so when you go to the bank or when you go to the store and you swipe the card or something, the debit card or the credit card or whatever it is, there's a period of time where the transaction is not confirmed. You see this a lot, like when you go to a restaurant and you add a tip, you'll see in your bank the original amount, the amount for the food, and then later on you'll see the tip added on, right? And pending transactions are in flux, like they can drop off completely. A good example of that is maybe you go to a hotel and they put like a hold a transaction on your account, right? And they're just going to have that there in case you wreck the place, and and then that amount will change or it'll drop off completely. So pending transactions can change, and that's why we want to mark them as pending in YNAB, because anything could happen to them. Now, a cleared transaction means your bank has certified that yes, this actually occurred, and now it's a permanent part of your bank balance. Even if you disputed it, you would need to, probably do a refund or something like that. It is, it's there. It definitely happened, and the bank confirmed it. So that's the difference between a pending transaction and a cleared transaction. And in YNAB, there's a way to know whether a transaction is one or the other. And then out of that, there is a cleared balance in YNAB and an uncleared balance, what we call the working balance. Cleared balance only includes cleared transactions, and the working balance includes everything, the pending transactions as well. So when you reconcile, you want to reconcile based on the cleared balance, not including any pending transactions at all. And that way, even though you have pending transactions in your account in YNAB, you can still reconcile. I hope that makes sense. It's a little bit complicated.
That made sense. Well done.
Thank you.
You're a good teacher, Ben.
Oh, thanks.
Well, maybe you know this, or maybe some other budget nerd knows the answer to this. I've always wondered that time between a transaction going from pending to cleared at the bank, why is it so different from a checking account to a credit card? Because I'll swipe a debit card, that'll be pending for like an hour, and then it's cleared and it comes through. But credit card transactions, those suckers lay around in pending for like 3 or 4 days sometimes.
Because I don't use credit cards, so like I don't know. Is that the case? I mean, for me,
every credit card I've ever had, they sit in pending for days, especially if it's a holiday or a weekend, and then they finally are marked as cleared.
Maybe they're not prioritized because they're not like real money leaving kind of a thing yet. I don't know. Could be anything.
But this is how nerdy I get.
Right. You're like waiting like tapping your foot, waiting for this thing to clear.
Well, even further than that, like I'm thinking about how long is it going to take this transaction to go from pending to cleared. So I was getting ready to make my fresh start for January 2022. I'm doing a little bit of spending on, what was that? That was a Friday. That was New Year's Eve, the 31st. And when possible, I would be spending with my debit card because I knew that would finalize that day. Like it was just going to be a matter of hours. I could mark that as cleared, and then I could basically just close that chapter on 2021 in the budget.
Okay.
So then I'm starting 2022 with only those, pending transactions starting on the 1st and moving forward kind of thing.
Right. Oh, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
Super nerdy.
Oh, super nerdy. Well, for me, it seems like it depends on the store sometimes too. Like a big store, like the Kroger or really, actually, it doesn't really have anything to do with the size of the store. It just seems random. Certain stores, it seems like it clears like almost immediately sometimes, and then other stores it seems like it takes forever. So I don't know. I think there's some kind of I don't know what goes on with all the banks stuff, but I think there's some kind of communication going on between the retailer or the store and the bank, and I think some of them are faster. But this is how in the weeds you get when you reconcile every day, and you're just like, why is this Walgreens charge so fast, but Walmart took forever? They both have Wall in the name.
Yeah, you start caring way too much about transactions and transaction statuses.
Yeah, and we love it. We love it. So yeah, so always be sure that when you reconcile, you're reconciling based on that clear balance, not the unclear balance, which includes the pending transactions. And then you don't have to worry about it. Now, when the very, it's not very often because I use one account for all my spending, like I said. But every once in a blue moon, there are no pending transactions, and I hit reconcile, and it is glorious because all the transactions are filed away. And so, I absolutely love it when that happens.
You just have a blank register.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's a filter. I mean, it's not like filed away where you can't see those transactions, but there's a filter in YNAB on the web app that makes it so the reconciled transactions aren't visible. And I really like that because it just makes everything a little cleaner. So, all right. What's another misconception, Ernie?
You don't need to reconcile if you import transactions, right? The idea there is, well, my bank is already feeding those directly into YNAB, so they have to be right. Why do I need to reconcile?
Yeah, and I think it's a valid thing to think.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, because you can trust that importer, but sometimes there are hiccups with the import, as if you're using direct import, or even if you use file-based import and maybe you haven't gotten everything. So it's
or you or your partner accidentally delete one of those old past imported transactions. That happens.
True. Yeah, that's a true thing. So I think it's a good idea to reconcile even if you use import, and it's kind of awesome actually because I enter transactions myself as much as I can, but I also import transactions, and when I reconcile, I also go through the pending transactions. This is getting in the weeds here, but after I hit that reconcile, I go through the pending transactions to make sure that they're all there. And so pretty much I enter almost all my pending transactions before they import. And so when I actually import it, they all link up because so long as the amount is the same, anything you enter yourself will match up when it imports. And so it all links up. And it's kind of a game for myself to see how many transactions link up together. There's like a little icon in YNAB, a little chain icon that means that they linked with an existing transaction. And that is really fun for me.
Man, I love that. It is just the greatest feeling.
It really is. It really is. So, yeah, still use that reconciling feature even if you import because you'll catch any mistakes. And also you might have some fun with the process. Now, it's a lot easier if you import because even if you enter transactions yourself, when a transaction imports and matches, it also clears it for you in YNAB, which is really, really helpful because so long as it's coming in as a cleared transaction, it clears it for you. So that makes it easier because you don't have to actually go and mark transactions cleared manually. So yeah, that's why I like to do it. Because so really the way I use the importer is not so much to get the data into YNAB, it's to make reconciliation easier. Because reconciliation is the goal here, right? I'm getting the data in one way or the other myself, but the importer clears the transaction for me and it catches any mistakes I might have made.
Yep. You're using them to verify what you've entered.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And so that's the shift I think we want most people to do because entering transactions yourself is so good for awareness anyway. It makes you just more aware of your spending, helps you feel it a little more. You see immediately how it impacts the budget. It's also faster because sometimes it takes a few days for those transactions to import, and depending on your bank, you can't import pending transactions. Just depends on whether it's allowed.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think it's a good idea to enter things yourself as much as you can, and then the import makes reconciliation a breeze.
And for those folks that are only entering transactions themselves, maybe they're not direct importing or using file-based import, just so we're clear, in those cases, you're going to have to manually mark every transaction as cleared. So you're regularly checking your bank statement, your online bank account. Once a transaction clears, you mark it as cleared in YNAB.
Mm-hmm. And what I like to do is compare those transactions to my bank and then click on the transaction in YNAB, and I just hit C on my keyboard. That's a little tip for you. There's a hotkey. If you hit C for cleared while you have a transaction selected, it'll toggle to clear or uncleared, and that is super nice. I love those little hotkeys like that.
All right, well, one last misconception is reconciliation can't span across different months. Every so often, I think we see this because this must be, and I'm just guessing here, rooted back into the days of balancing the checkbook. So I'm totally going to be dating myself here, but I understand what that is because I did that in high school. I mean, I looked forward to it. Every month, at the end of the month, I would.
You've been a budget nerd always.
I have. So yes, I had a ton of friends in high school. I was super cool. Hey, you want to come over tonight and reconcile your checkbook with me?
You know what's funny is I didn't even realize you were joking, like making fun of yourself there, and I was like, of course you had tons of friends. Oh, I love it.
Oh, that's funny.
Well, yeah, because I guess I think you're like, what? Are you like 10 years older than me, Ernie? I don't think we've ever compared.
Yeah, I graduated high school in '97.
Oh, right, you're exactly 10 because I graduated high school in 2007. So yeah, you're like exactly 10 years older than me, and I never did. I never did balance checkbook my whole life.
Yeah, online banking was not a thing at that time. Mm-hmm. So if I wanted to know how much money I had to rely on my checkbook register.
And I guess you get the statement like in the mail from the bank once a month.
Yeah.
And so you
got the statement at the end. Well, it was always at the beginning of the next month, right? Because as soon as the month closed, they ran it, sent it to you, and then you would go through and mark your little X in the register, right? This happened on my statement, and I'd mark it in my statement as well, and try to see if there were any transactions that didn't match across, and then I'd do some addition and some subtraction and make sure these two balances match. Basically, it was the same thing that we're doing in YNAB, right? Matching cleared versus cleared. But they made it really complex with the bank, I remember. So
yeah. I mean, I never learned how to do it because I always had the online bank, so I could check that, and so I didn't need my own register because I could just check the true register all the time. But when I started using YNAB, I think that's probably why I had a hard time starting reconciling and understanding that term because I never done it before, you know. So I think depending on your age, you might have a trip up if you're my age in your early 30s or younger. You might be tripped up because you don't even have anything to compare it to. You've never had to reconcile because you could always look up your balance and your transactions anytime you want.
Yep.
Or if you're on the other side and you're more like Ernie's age or older, you might be tripped up because you think that reconciliation is only a monthly activity because you used to only get your bank statement once a month. But you can do it as often as you like, and you're always reconciling the transactions since the last time you reconciled. So
yeah, I actually remember thinking that when I started reconciling regularly in YNAB, like all of a sudden I'm going back to my high school self. And I remember thinking, this is so cool. Like, I can do this as much as I want. Rad.
It's not a monthly chore anymore. Well, but it's a joy, because you can do it. I mean, I guess it was always a joy for you, Ernie, because it was a joy for you in high school when you did it. But it's a joy if you do it every day or once a week because it's not so much work. But doing it once a month it's a lot of work. There's a lot of transactions to go through, and you don't remember.
A ton.
Yeah. So it gets tricky for sure. All right. Well, that's all we wanted to say about reconciliation. Anything you want to add, Ernie?
No, that's it. I'm really proud of ourselves. We got super nerdy on this one. So yeah, I like it.
This is a lot of fun. And hey, remember, if you want to subscribe to the podcast, just search Budget Nerds anywhere you listen to podcasts. And I'm sure it'll come up for you. And don't forget to leave a review as well. That'd be super helpful.
All right. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
All righty. Bye, y'all.
Happy budgeting.
Happy budgeting. I always do this like fist bump, and I just
punched it.
And now that we have this microphone in front of us, I just punched the microphone. Well, that'll be a good blooper for you there.